What makes generative AI applications so impactful is when we work very closely with the business process that we already have at hand, how to make it better and automating that step by step. Therefore, I will show you in this video a little bit of a method of thinking about business process models and how to build your very first orchestration with several steps in entAIngine using GPT-4o, GPT-4o mini, templates, variables in the entAIngine Studio interface. So let's get started. I brought today an example from a real-world case that I've been working on for you here, so that we can have a little bit of an example on build our very first application. The example comes from a finance department of a mid-sized German company. The company has a lot of invoices that are coming there at the end of each month. And the CFO in the finance department needs to do basically controlling of these invoices. The company is big enough so that there are different departments with different department heads that lead different projects, and we have invoices that are usually associated with projects. So when a new invoice has to come, the CFO basically has to figure out, well, who's responsible for that invoice, then send them the invoice, ask if the prices is correct, if it's all justified, and whether or not he should pay. That department head or the one who's in charge of that project needs to complete that task, give back an answer via email so that the CFO can give a final green light, checking the invoice, and then in the end deciding whether or not to pay. This is a multi-step process that if you would go to ChatGPT and do something like that would be a pretty big pain to go through, because there's a lot of interaction and a lot of different systems, a lot of different things that you have to do, mapping categories and going through that, finding the right person, sending the email, analyzing the answer email, and in the end deciding whether to pay or to decline. But generally, we can model this business process like we have it here. And our task now is to use entAIngine to build an orchestration for that very business process that helps us make our life better from the perspective of a CFO at the moment. We do have for this example process a little bit of example data that I would like you to show. So we have here an example invoice that looks as follows. The invoice is coming from Amazon Web Services and is going to a company in Germany. You see here different line items for Amazon EC2, Amazon S3, Amazon RDS, AWS Lambda, all function calls, and together totaling all about €701.03, including 19% of VAT. That is supposed to be sent as a direct transfer to Deutsche Bank. Then we have a second document, which is the mapping document from the projects to the departments. So we have here a PDF document, but you could also have it in any other format. In the end, the large language model doesn't really care about that. We have here the project name, we have the department, and we have a project lead and a contact email address. And we have to take those things and figure basically out to which of these projects or to which of these people this invoice belongs to. And, we as humans, we can see with a little bit of Sherlock Holmes investigation, we can see that there is a project reference in the bunch of line items over here to a project called microserver. And when we scroll down here, there is also a microserver project over here where Max Meyer is in charge of. Of course, that takes us manual work, and the longer this document here gets, the more work it is, and the harder it is in the end, because also every type of invoice that we get looks a little bit different from case to case, from merchant to merchant, from supplier to supplier. So we would like to build and orchestrate a process where we can automatically only have to upload the invoice and our mapping of departments and generate the email out of that. And we are going to do that in 2 separate steps. So when we start building this process, we first have to log into entAIngine. You have to go to www.studio.entAIngine.com and log in with your credentials. For you, it's important that you, before you get your account, that you go to www.entAIngine.com and get in touch with us, studying for free, getting here and get started, book a demo with us, or just tell us, hey, we would like to have an account and would like to get started. So we will create an account for you and a dedicated organization for you, which is quite important to have an organizational structure. So we have it's a multi-tenancy platform, so we have different customers who have their different spaces with different applications. And in each of these applications, we have users, and they can create applications, create processes in these applications that start process executions. And the application that you build will only be visible to the organization that you put it in. So we have here a root organization that is called .eai, but if you have a company called Acme, then you will have a space called .eai.acme. And only you and the other people that are in .eai.acme can see this application. Let me show you how the creation of that new application works. It's a three-step process. You have to first select the type of application. entAIngine offers 4 different application types. The AI process application, which is a little bit more of a bare bones process automation, where you have a form where the user needs to fill in certain inputs and get through. Then we have the Company Guru application. Company Guru is a little bit like your own company Google in terms of the interface. You remember we said in the beginning, you don't need for everything a chat, but we do offer also chat as a type of application. But in many cases, we would like to see the source of where your information is coming from. The Company Guru application is pretty good. If you want something interactive, it's a chat application. And a lot of people don't know the last type of application, but we use it a lot. That's the editor application. The editor application basically creates a document for you, and you have small little snippets for AI processes that you can iteratively execute and basically use to build iteratively a document, which is very useful when you have a little bit of the human in the loop approach. We are building an AI process application, and we give this process application a name called invoice controlling app. And we are associating this invoice controlling app to the .eai organization. You can now choose if the application is visible only for you or for anyone in your organization. With that hierarchical organizational structure, you can also have sub-departments and sub-departments that belong to a parent going on back and forth. We press create application and we come to the invoice controlling general screen. That's the specific dashboard for that specific application. You can change here styles, logos, you can naming, edit, deleting this button. But the important thing that we would like to do for now is we would like to build logic into this app. And therefore we go to logic. An application in entAIngine consists of one or more process templates. You remember how we talked about templating in the beginning? This is where you create process templates. You click here, you give this a name and say this is invoice controlling for departments, and you say this is version 1. And you can also make this process template either only be accessible to you with your permissions or to all of the people that are in your organization, in the group that you're currently in. When you press generate, you are getting to a blank canvas. This blank canvas is basically here for you to build interactively your very first process template. Do you remember how I was talking about case-specific and case-independent context data? We have to create this context data as variables. Our first variable that we are giving in that is case-specific is the invoice. Of course, if we have 1,000 different invoices, that means we have 1,000 different cases. And it means for each of these cases, we have a different invoice. These input templates are basically the variables that change from case to case. You can put in here text, you can put here options. So in terms of a drop-down menu. You can make this a file, you can make it an URL, or you can automatically get it into an OCR workflow where you have, for example, a scan or a picture and you need to extract the text out from that picture. In our case, the invoice is a file that has the type PDF. The second part is the department mapping. The department mapping is for here now the second document that we have to feed in to figure out who is the one that is in charge. And now we have defined these variables, and now we are going to build the orchestration of that process. And that looks as follows. We have here to drop down a text completion model. We have here dozens of text completion models that you can use. We will later in this course go a little bit more in depth into when to use which type of model, but really get into that mindset of if we want to optimize also with regards to cost, you need to think about what model do you use. But we will talk about that later a little bit more in detail. For now, we will just use Azure GPT 4.0. If you have specific requirements for your organization and you would like to add your own models, we can also do that with your own Azure account, with your own account, wherever it is. Just shoot me an email for that. We need at least a prompt, and we need to have at least a task template. The task template is saying basically, please, process engine use this text completion model and this process and this prompt over here. A prompt currently doesn't have any context because we didn't give it any, but we have to fill that in a second. Just as a quick overview, we have here many other types of models. We have speech synthesis models, image generation models, audio translation models, transcription models, embeddings. We have a retrieval augmented generation with vector stores. We have here also the possibility to insert custom function tasks, lambda function to you, and get that basically also where when you have a process where in the middle you need to make a call to an external API, you can also do that. So, and now we are writing here a very simple prompt. Of course, you can do very extensive prompts, but at that point in time, we are trying to keep it simple as it can. So I say, I am the CFO of a company, and I need to do invoice controlling. And this is my invoice. And here I am putting curly brackets and then in caps invoice, which is the name of the variable that we have here on the right side. And then we're giving it more information. Say, I have here a document that states my projects, departments, and department leaders. And now we insert the department mapping into this prompt. And we say, tell me the name and the name and the email of the person who should be responsible for this invoice. And I'm hitting save. And I'm hitting save here. What we have built now is we have built our very first application. And when we press launch, we can go version of a process app. Looks basically like this. You see here a lot of different cards for your processes that you have built. We have so far built one single process that is called invoice controlling for departments. We press here use template, and now we can upload the variables that we have defined before. And in our case, we are having here two different variables. One is the invoice that we have here, and the other one is the mapping of the departments. So I'm taking this, I'm putting it in here, and I'm uploading it to entAIngine for case-specific context data. And I'm doing the same thing with the invoice, and I'm pressing now generate. What happens now in the backend is that this template that we have built is being populated with the data we just uploaded, and the variables are replaced with the actual data that we have. And once the process has finished, we see that the output that we have here. So the project associated with the invoice is called microserver, which falls into the IT security department. The project leader of microservices is Max Meyer. Therefore, the responsible person of this invoice should be Max Meyer, and his contact email is Max Meyer Mobility. Super. So now we think about what I said in the beginning, right? Divide and conquer. Break down this process into small little steps and implement these steps individually. We have implemented now the very first step, but we have not implemented yet the full end-to-end thing. So to do that, we need to create a second step. And the second step is basically taking the email and taking the email address, and it's writing an email or it's drafting an email to the person. Therefore, we're using again GPT-4o, and we are giving context. The context is not carried over from step 1 to step 2 automatically. So every time you want the process to know what happened before, you need to automatically, or you need to connect this thing here. That means basically that the text output from this step goes into the next step. I again say I'm the CFO of a company and do invoice controlling. This is my invoice. I have already identified who is the responsible person. And then we are ingesting our output from the first step. And we are adding a last instruction to that text completion that we have here and say, right now, a professional email asking the person we have identified to comment, give a justification for the invoice items and tell me and ask them to tell me if I should pay this invoice or not. And that's basically all of these different prompt segments here. So the prompt segment that we have here, then the output from the first step, and then the second prompt segment that we have here is going to get merged into one completion and sent to the model. And we can use now, of course, we can go here to launch, or we just go to what we call the debugger. With the debugger, it's very easy that you can see the individual intermediate outputs of your processes. So I will again upload my process department list and my invoice. And you will see now here that under your text completion tests, you get your intermediate results. And the first intermediate result is also here, which says the invoice is related to microserver as a project. It falls under the IT security department. It's Max Meyer. And then you see that we feed that in, and you see that we are asking, dear Max, can you help me with this, and this? This is what I need. Please help me. And we have now built our very first multi-step process. So we can do that now over and over again. We can build, of course, processes with 20 steps. We don't only have to use one model. We can also just say, okay, for the first step, that is so simple, please use the GPT-4o mini model because that's faster and it's cheaper in the end. We can also swap out different multimodal models we can get with our orchestrations, retrieval augmented generation in vector database, etc. This is the thing how you build applications with entAIngine step by step. We'll go much more deeper into the details of the individual features, but this here is generally the outline for everything that you're doing.